Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you coming on.
Excited.
Community has been really interesting to just see really what's out there.
Are you new to this area?
I'm not new to this area, no.
Okay, just sort of new to fitness at all, or
just new to new to the world of fitness more than fitness itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I've loved to work out, to eat healthy, move my body, all that kind of stuff. But with the podcast, it gave me an opportunity to talk to more people. I'm a very introverted person, so I'm not going to walk up to somebody in the gym or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I'm a loner too, so I feel like in this sort of business and pursuing whether bodybuilding or whatever it is, that's probably better to be a loner because it's a lonely sport. Yeah. So like if you depend on like different stuff every day and people around you, probably not. So yeah, I'm definitely more introverted than I am the opposite.
Yeah, and it's so funny because out of all the people that I've talked to, especially in person, you kind of get to see a little bit more of their personality and how they sit, how they talk, the small things.
Yeah.
I really noticed that I've picked up on that so many people, Donna Sleeve for one, I mean, she's so like soft spoken, she has such a personality, but it's just like she's doing her own thing. She's in her own world.
Yeah.
Just people that have excelled at bodybuilding or that are, really good coaches or whatever it is. It does seem like that consistency sometimes is a good thing, and it can also be a little bit of a hindrance in terms of that social aspect.
I mean, it takes you away from society. Most people, if everybody did what we do every day, we wouldn't be where we are as far as health and obesity and whatever. So, I mean, you eat the same things every day, train the same times every day, train the same ways, don't drink, don't smoke, whatever it is you do or don't do, it pulls you away from most of the people around you. My family doesn't work out. Most of my friends are not into the gym. If they are, it's casual, So doing this every day, all day, you don't really have, plus working, you don't really have time to have a social life. You sort of become awkward. you sort of become socially awkward. So, yeah.
100%. Yeah, I think, and already kind of being more towards that introverted, shy, natural way myself.
Yeah.
It's really cool to, like I said, get an opportunity to actually sit down with somebody.
Yeah.
Because I never really thought about it before. I was actually talking to somebody on a podcast recently, and I was like, I really enjoy conversations, and I like to talk to people and like kind of pick their brain, and even just a conversation I'm not involved in, I love listening to it, like other podcasts and stuff. So I love conversation, but I've always felt like I'm bothering that person, if I'm going up to just talk to them randomly about this thing, but having this opportunity to sit down with somebody, it's cool because it's like an agreed upon setting, like, oh, we're going to have a conversation. So let's dive into something. So it's pretty cool.
I mean, it's a fine line, like mid set, please don't, like I'm working out, but like I want to educate and I had somebody that I looked up to and that took the time to talk to me and to be friendly and to give me some tips. And most of the big guys in the gym, man, are that guy, that's friendly, that's nice, that wants to help, wants to give advice for people to do it the right way, but we just don't look like it, So like this guy's a dick because he's 300 pounds of muscle. So I'm not going to talk to him, but he's probably the guy that will help you first and would have the right guidance. So, I mean, for me, man, I just found the biggest guy in the gym, sort of watch what he did, ask him questions when I felt like I could. And that's pretty much how I learned, man. And then you educate yourself more in depth with books. But it's so much that the books can't teach you, man, that big guy in the gym or the Donna in the gym would gladly help you. You just have to be willing to go ask.
Yeah. And I have, like I said, my degree is actually in exercise science, and I was getting out of that. I graduated, getting out into the real world, if you will, and I did an internship in strength conditioning first. I thought that was kind of more where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And like you said, I feel like I did learn a lot from the books, but then when I first actually got into that environment of strength conditioning, I had more questions like the first week, first month than I did than I got asked in college. It's just many.
Right. That's what the AI too that's coming out, like trying to replace coaches. I mean, that's something you're not going to be able to replace, is that in person somebody you can ask questions to when things are not so black and white. My coach, Tyler, is an introvert, but he's very wordy when you talk about what he cares about.
Right.
And I'm the same way. Like, no, I'm not going to have a 2-hour conversation with you about life. But if you say, hey, what about my bench technique? I'll probably talk for 2 hours, if you listen. And so we all introverted, but when we talking about a passion, so back to what you said, man, that AI is trying to come in and sort of take away that human interaction. It will replace a lot of jobs, man, but this is one that needs to be hands-on. I saw I'm not sure what it was called, but it was a podcast post. I can't remember who said it, but it said that you have to teach your kids like jobs that you have to do with your hands, because with AI coming around, it's going to do away with a lot of jobs. This is one that coaching is one that I don't think a computer can replace. It might come up with a generic workout or generic diet, but like you said, that in person that you've learned just by watching, just by listening. Me of learning with coaching just by different clients and different types of clients and different ages, and you sort of test things out and then you learn. So where I am today is worlds apart from where I started and where I'll be in 10 years and so on. So the books are cool. It'll give you that foundation. It'll give you the credibility to say, hey, I went to school, but where I am today, maybe 10% is from the books, and that's probably basic nutrition, basic how to build a program for a beginner. But at this point, maybe 30% of my clientels are beginners. The rest are pretty advanced. So what about them? How do you program for somebody that already looks really good, that's already pretty advanced, that already has a good structure? What's missing that they're not as good as they could be?
Right.
So the book's not going to teach you that, man.
Yeah. And with ChatGPT and things like that, it's definitely weird because you feel like there's a lot of almost like creativity outsourced.
Yeah.
With you see it creating entertainment, art, music, things like that. You see people getting ideas for how do I, make a social media post even, or how do I do a program like you were saying, or what, even I find myself like getting on there just for pure interest and being like, create a diet that has these macros and it's this many whatever, and just it's really interesting, and I do catch it, and that's where people do have to be careful. I can you can catch it if you really know what you're talking about when you're talking to it.
Yeah,
it makes mistakes, and it's like, oh wow, that's actually a huge mistake, that if somebody didn't know and they just followed this thing, it would be very much different, the results
than what they're looking for.
Than what they're looking for.
I think, like, if I reference like my coach again, Tyler, it's things that he offers that I can communicate to him, I can talk to him, I can call him, and I can text him that the AI is not going to do. It's advice. It's sometimes, man, you just talk and you just need somebody to listen. That I can't text my computer and they text me back advice, or just, it's going to be all right. It's okay. So recently with my program, I made a little mistake, and I was doing my free meal on a different day. We switched up check-in days. I didn't switch up my free meal day, so it threw off check-ins, and he had to say, hey, man, what the hell is that? I had to own that and say, that's my fault. I should have been thinking, and I wasn't. That sort of made me say, you know what, I'm not going to screw up like that again. The computer wouldn't catch that, Right. So AI is cool for if your sister has never worked out, and she's like, I have no idea even where to start. Put a program together for me, simple, basic stuff. But somebody's advanced, even if it's not stage, it's just, I want to look really good. The AI, it'll come and go real quick. Once it costs, I think once people have to pay for it, then they'll say, I can pay for the computer, or I can pay for John to actually talk to me and say he has experience and see his portfolio. I think the AI will go away pretty quick. Yeah.
It doesn't give you that same, like you said, you can't text it and be like, in a way, make me feel a little bit better about the situation that I'm in, right. Because that computer's never been in that situation. Right. That it can't feel the same way that you are feeling right now. Right. It can't empathize. Yeah, empathize with you. Yeah. It can't feel. Yeah. And I think in a day and age where technology is so crucial in our society, it does a lot of good, but we also need that human connectivity and human touch to things too.
I mean, what we're doing, again, you don't have to step on stage, but the whole journey, the whole process, man, there's a lot of feel involved. There's a lot of emotion. Tired, sick, stressed, hungry, full, whatever, hurt, whatever it might be. But I think that's a big piece, the empathy piece, where somebody can say, I know how it feels. I know what you feel like right now. And my advice is based on experience and it's not generic. You know what I mean? I have 2 different clients, mother and daughter. They talk to each other about their plans, and they talk about how their plans are worlds apart. What they eat, how they train is literally 2 different things. It's not a one-size-fits-all. You know, and I think that came from me learning both of them and learning what they need and learn how they train and learn their personalities and things that the AI is not going to be. It's not going to learn who you are as a person. So that plan is going to look like everybody that's your height, your weight, with your goal. And it's not going to say, but you can't do this, or you don't like this, or you struggle with this, so this is a perfect plan for you. So I think that people will utilize it, especially starting out. I think there'll be a lot of young people who don't want to pay, who can't pay for a coach, which that's fine, man. If you don't have the means to pay for a coach, do what you can do. That I will say that's probably a good plan B. But if you can afford somebody to a human touch, I think that will always be, in my opinion, that would be the better route.
Yeah.
So
for sure. And so kind of getting into you a little bit, how did you actually get into this world of fitness?
So I played football, golf, and basketball. And golf I was probably the best at golf. So that's what paid for school. So I was never really into the gym at that point. Golf is one of those sports where you can't be big and jacked, you know, and swing around yourself for the most part. So I was a casual gym goer. I went with the team for practice, and I would, here and there, if the girls are in the gym, you know, I would go for that purpose. But I graduated when I didn't work out. So I got pretty chunky, wasn't in the gym at all. That wasn't really an interest at that point. I had a child at maybe, I think I was 23. So it was just work. That's pretty much all I was working to provide for my child. I got to maybe 245 pounds, maybe 28% body fat, maybe even 30. And I just hated how I looked, man. I hated how my clothes fit. I hated how I felt. I didn't sleep well ever. I was always pretty moody. I worked with a little energy because I was young. So I had a little bit of energy just because I was younger, but I was not happy with. I was vain. I still am, you know, but I was really vain at that point. So putting on my shirt and having, you know, man boobs didn't sit well. So I did a vegan diet, and I did that for like a year and a half. I was pretty consistent. I would say maybe 98% adherence with that for that whole year and a half. And I lost maybe 50 pounds in like 4 months, 4 or 5 months. So that's not healthy. But I did. And I was probably maybe 25% body fat at that point, maybe 180 to 200, somewhere in there. But I still wasn't happy, you know. So I want to get jacked. I want to get big. So I started getting ready for a show. Found a coach, worked with her, was getting ready for a show, ruptured my Achilles, and then I had to take 8 months off. So I was out of the gym for maybe 8 months. I had lost pretty much all the gains that I built in that maybe year and a half process, 2 years. So when I came back, I remember I went to the gym to squat. Why I picked legs the first day back after an Achilles injury, I have no idea. But went to squat. I left maybe 495 to 500 pounds, was 4 to 6 reps for me when I left. Came back 135. I squatted once. It felt like 495. Went down for a second when my buddy had to literally get the weight off of me. So I said, you know what, I'm going to get strong. This is embarrassing. It makes me not want to come back. So then I got into powerlifting. I met a guy named Steve, and he got me introduced to powerlifting. And so we sort of went with that. But I always still trained to still want to look a certain way. So I never wanted to look like what the typical powerlifter looks like. You know, I still wanted to have aesthetics. So I never really fully lived the powerlifter lifestyle because I still ate a certain way. I still trained in high volume, still trained with high reps, or I would do my powerlifting program, then I would stay and I would do something else, or I would come back and do something else, which was essentially overtraining. But for me mentally, I had to do this. I can't come in here, man, and do 2 or 3 reps and go home. You know, right. I'm getting strong as shit, man, but this is not, I don't feel like I'm supposed to be doing. So, but just fitness, man. I played sports. I was an athlete. It's easy to translate over to that mentality of chasing some goal, working hard, being structured, having a routine, having a coach. All that's pretty familiar territory. So, I guess you can say I've been into it all my life. It's just strictly the gym and strictly learning the science and putting it into my own life and seeing the results and helping other people and putting it all together to make it a business. That's probably a last 6 year journey for me.
Right. And, going from, having kind of those swings of probably being pretty athletically built, at sports, gaining weight, having, got really into the gym and experience kind of losing that and then building probably more confidence. And then you have the injury, a lot of swings psychologically. How did you actually, was it something that you had a lot of resilience towards, or was it kind of tough for you to go through that?
The Achilles injury was really tough. I was probably maybe not my lowest, but I was really low. I was depressed. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything for myself. I was in a cast in a boot for the whole 8 months. I couldn't work. The only upside, man, was that my job was paying me 100% salary pay, so I could literally just focus on getting better. I didn't have to worry about bills or money coming in, so that was probably the only upside. I'm not a gamer, but a buddy of mine is a super gamer. So he brought me over his PlayStation. It was one he wasn't using. He brought me Red Dead, the video game Red Dead. When I first started out, I couldn't even line the gun up, man, to shoot somebody. By the time I got off of the boot and it was ready to go back to work, I probably was the best Red Dead fucking player there is. I went through the whole thing maybe 8 times. The only game I've ever played in my life, but it was a really low moment for me. But I knew what I had started before I got hurt. And I mean, soon as I could go back to the gym, I was back. So I think I've always been resilient, and it's not necessarily related to the gym, just my life in general, where I come from, what I've been through. You've always sort of had to put feelings and emotions to the side and focus on what you're trying to accomplish. And you fail sometimes, obviously, but I've never let setbacks be why I stop. It seems like I always had something in my life at the time that I had to keep trucking, whether it was a certain goal, whether it was a child, a promotion on the line. I mean, it was always I've always had something that I was looking forward to chase and to achieve that. It's always made being resilient pretty, I don't want to say easy, but easier. And I think the same thing with fitness, man. When you don't have something when you sort of get content, you don't have a bigger goal, then that's when it does become hard. To eat the food becomes hard. To train becomes hard. To be consistent with the lifestyle in general becomes hard because you're sort of content, Yeah. And that's just how I've always been, man. It was easier for me to chase that goal because I related to golf a lot in the sense that you can be a scratch golfer. You can shoot 71, 72 every time out. But once you master that, you're never going to say, I'm cool. You're always going to want 69 and then 68, and you'll never be happy. Pros that could shoot 64 on courses that we would shoot 75 on are unhappy with that. So it's the same thing with fitness, man. You never really get content. And when you do, that's probably when you sort of fall off. So.
Yeah. And during that time of those 8 months, was there, did you have any thoughts of is it going to be worth doing all this again? Because I've put in all this work and now I can see myself, I've lost it. I can feel that I'm not as strong. Yeah. Did you ever have any thought or fear of what if something happens again and I'm going to have to restart?
I would say no, man. I was nervous. The Achilles is one of those, man, where you're super nervous. Like basketball, weightlifting, football, I was nervous to use it, and then naturally I was favoring one leg over the other because this calf was a third of the size of the other calf, and so I don't know if I was scared to go on the journey again because my goal, and anybody that knows me personally knows my goal is Nick Walker. And that has been my goal for a while. and before him it was probably Ronnie. So in my head I was nowhere near there when I got hurt. So starting over wasn't starting as far back as maybe it would be today. If I have to start from scratch, I might be a little discouraged because it's taken a long time to get here. But at that point, man, at that injury, I wasn't really worried about starting over. I was defeated, but I was still learning. I was still trying to perfect my own lifestyle as far as chasing that goal. And I wasn't perfect. I'm still not perfect, but I was way off. So I had no issues with sort of starting over. What I've learned, I did a lot of reading, man, while I was sitting on the couch at home. I still ate really clean that whole time. So that's one thing about it. I didn't get fat. Like, I didn't come off that injury and come back to the gym chunky. I stayed on my diet. I couldn't really leave the house, so I had to have food brought to me. So when it was bad, it was a Zaxby salad. It's not good, but it wasn't McDonald's.
Right.
So when I came back, I was just skinny fat, man. I was small with no muscle. I wasn't chunky. So for me, it would be harder for me to want to get in shape coming from being really big to trying to get small. It was easier for me to go from small to getting big. Because, it's not, most gyms, commercial gyms, are not going to have a lot of huge meatheads in there. So you don't feel as much of an outcast when you're sort of skinny as when you may be fatter. So for me, it was not that hard, man. All right, let me get my ass back in here. Let me start over. Let me prove something to myself. And I knew I needed it, man, for my mental health. Like, I cut people off, friends, family. Everything was personal. If you didn't check on me today, you're cut off, but I didn't even factor in that people have their own lives and their own problems. It wasn't about that. It was about how I feel, who's not there for me right now, and you're cut off if you're not there for me right now. So I needed that, man, and I've felt that way ever since I've been back for all these years. I'll always need the gym, this lifestyle. Even if it's not as super strict, I will still always eat chicken breast and ground turkey, and I always have my food with me. And unless I have a reason to pursue something else. But right now, this is where I'll be.
Right.
Yeah. I think this whole thing is mentally tough. Like, you look at everybody, different levels of where they are, and it's who's really happy. Any of us are satisfied? Probably not. Any of us, and I like where I am, and even when you say it, you say it out loud to be positive for your friends and for your clients or whoever's around you. But behind closed doors, are you really happy? I think we all look in the mirror and see something that's the rest of the people don't see,
right.
So how far are you from your goal? In my opinion, I'm light years away. So if I do have to take time off, would it mess with me mentally? 100%. But it's because you sort of get used to a lifestyle and something becomes a part of your life that you've prioritized. Like with most people's schedule, if you're going to make the gym a priority, it literally has to be intentional. Like, you literally are not going to just stumble upon going to the gym, trying, and actually getting results.
Right.
It's way too many excuses we can make. So I think when you lose that, it's going to mess with your mental. But unless I'm dead or unless I stop trying, I haven't failed, So I don't care how long it takes you or how long it takes you to get back or to nail a regimen. When you stop trying, that's when you can say, okay, maybe I'm failing. But a setback like that, man, is, even if it's in 4 months, like, I'm alive. One, I have a buddy, man, who got cancer, and we don't know what it was from. It could be from PDs, it could be from just diet, it could just be from, hereditary, I don't know, but it almost took him out, so he has a sort of a whole new outlook on what he prioritizes,
right.
And he still trains, but he'll put that on the back burner in a heartbeat for family or for different things. So, time off sucks, and when you lose progress, but always look at it from where I'm trying to go and how far I have to get there And if I take a setback like that, man, I might not practice what I preach, but deep down, I don't want to die tomorrow. So if I had to take time off from the gym or from whatever I do that might be, affecting my health, then I would do that, So it's the same for you, man. Like, I don't know when it started or how you got in this, with that situation, but 5 months off. Right. So did it just like happen overnight or something?
Basically, yeah. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden.
How did you, like, when you get sick or what?
Some like side pain, back pain, stomach pain.
Yeah. I think it makes you appreciate, though, like, feeling good and being able to train. So many people, man, go to the gym with I have to go do this, or I have to go do that, and you get to, and I think because there's people right now like yourself who don't get to do that and would love to be able to go train hard and be tired and sweat and be sore, but it just makes you appreciate it. I have pain. I think anybody who bodybuilds, powerlifts, any of that stuff will tell you, if you're going through the whole lifestyle with no pain, no discomfort, no soreness, and this hurts, that hurts, you're a select few.
All right.
Most are I deal with back pain almost every time I train. And I could very easily say, you know what, I'm okay. I'm going to sit this one out and I'm not going to train. But I appreciate the fact that I can go and that I can train and that I can push myself past that, And I don't know when the day is coming. I mean, I'm 31, so I'm younger than some, older than some. But, I don't know when the day is coming where I can't. So I don't know how long I have to look like Nick Walker. It might be 20 years. It might be 2 months. I don't know. So I just have to push myself all I can. I got people around me who always say, man, you need to relax. You need to take some time off. But that time off won't do what it might do for that person because they don't have a passion for it, So I actually enjoy what I'm doing. So this is my time off, but sitting at home, not training, man, or not doing anything, eating whatever I want wouldn't be time off. It would be a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
I struggle with that without losing the gym. So if I lost the gym, man, and sort of the structure, I don't know if you're into signs, but I'm a Capricorn. I'm really big on, like, I have to have structure, If I don't know, if everything's unpredictable and it's all over the place, my anxiety is through the roof, and I'm just very uncomfortable. So I have to know when I'm doing what, how I'm doing what, and I have to know what's going on ahead. I can't live in the moment.
Right.
Maybe that's not the best thing, but that's just where I am, man.
I think it's tough to do that for anybody, really, is to live in the moment.
I don't think with what the fitness goal, again, no matter what your end goal is, you won't be really good at it if you're living in the moment. I got right now meals in my bag. Living in the moment would be, we'll figure out what we're going to eat when we get there. Well, I'm almost certain nothing around here is chicken breast and rice or ground turkey and rice. So now you're eating something bad. When am I going to train? If everything was just haphazard, man, and I'll figure it out when it's time to, every check-in, you'll have some excuse. And I know this personally because I hear them. I was tired. I worked this. Or it's always something, that if you weren't living in the moment, if you were planning everything and you were preparing everything, you took that extra hour it took to have everything planned out, then it would flow a little bit better, and you would know when you're doing what, and you could be more intentional with everything. I mean, the sleep is intentional. The rest days are intentional. Maybe you take another rest day than what was planned. That's intentional. You're listening to your body. How many meals? I take 3 meals to work, so I leave work from about 1 to 4 every day, and I go back. So I take 3 because that's about how I eat from 9 to 1. I eat about 3 meals. So then I go home. I eat 1 meal at home, and then I bring the other 3 back with me, or 2 back with me, and then I'll have 1 after I train. So I'm doing 6 meals. So if I had to make those meals, man, or have my girlfriend make those meals for me on the fly, I would eat maybe 3 meals a day. So I think that you have to sort of really be super structured and you have to be that way. And if you need a lot of, the word I'm looking for, if you need a lot of diversity in your day and you need a lot of spontaneity every day, then this is probably not something that you want to get involved in because it's very redundant, and it can be very boring. But I find a lot of peace in that, man.
Right.
It's sort of like COVID, dude. When COVID was here and people like me and you introverts were like, now I have a reason to say I can't come over, or you can't come over, or I can't go. No, I wasn't scared of COVID. I'm just putting it out there. I really didn't give a shit, man. But if somebody invited me somewhere, it was so convenient to say, lost too many people, COVID, then I will stay home. So it's sort of the same thing with the gym. Like, hey, man, you want to go here? Oh, I don't drink. I could go and not drink. I'm disciplined enough, but I don't want to go, but I don't want to sound like, or sort of ruin that invite. I still want the invite. I think that's human. We want to be invited, but
right.
I don't want to go.
Yeah.
So I got to go to the gym. And now everybody around me knows me well enough to know they don't go back and forth. They don't try to get me to skip or, oh, man, I've been doing this long enough where they're like, I don't even know why we still invite them. But I do want the invite. So,
are you looking for a supplement company that can help take your fitness game to the next level? Look no further than All Sport Pharmaceuticals. Their cutting-edge supplements are scientifically formulated to give you the edge you need in the gym and in life. Whether you're looking to build muscle, increase endurance, or boost recovery time, All Sport Pharmaceuticals has you covered. And with a wide range of products designed for people of all levels, you're sure to find the perfect supplement for your needs. So why wait? Give your body the support it deserves with All Sport Pharmaceuticals. Visit their website today to learn more and start achieving your fitness goals. So when you actually got back into it, was there a period of time for you, or what was that period of time for you when you started to, I guess, feel like, okay, I am getting back to where I was, and then maybe even passing that point?
Oh, man. I would say maybe like a year. Some mistakes that I made coming back so during COVID, so I had two setbacks, actually. COVID was the second one. I came back, and I was probably back for maybe a year and a half. And in my opinion, I was well past where I left, physique-wise, and I wasn't really gauging strength as much. I really was just pure aesthetic, so physique-wise, I was past where I had left. Then COVID hit. And, I have pictures of when I was right before COVID, and I was like, okay, I'm leaning. I got a chest, and I got arms, and I got legs, and I got a back, but you can still see my abs, and, I was probably maybe 210 or somewhere in there. I was happy with that. I was willing to take my shirt off in the gym, and that was huge for me, because I'm not that guy. So I would say then COVID hit, man. I worked out at home. I didn't have a lot of stuff, so I had like dumbbells and bands, and it's the perfect push-up. I would use that stuff, man, but I didn't want to get fat, and I knew that didn't translate over into the actual gym really well. I knew that these 40-pound dumbbells that I had, man, maybe that's cool for some lateral raises, but it's not going to do anything for some chest press, so I would wrap bands around it and like take the bands and connect them to something so that I can add more resistance. I was rigging this, at the best of I'm not an engineer, but I felt like it. I was trying to make something work. I would wear a sweatsuit, like the garbage bag almost to sweat. I probably lost 20 pounds during COVID, but I was like, I'd rather lose weight and maybe even lose muscle than get fat, and I'll be fine starting back being smaller than being fat, and so I was wrapped up in that, man. So when I came back after COVID, the gym opened up whatever month, maybe it was like a June or something. I know it was the 21st of that month, and they opened up. It was a 24-hour gym, but they were going to open up at 6 a.m. I was there at 5:30 a.m. in the parking lot, because they were still capacity. They were going to only take so many people. I'm going to be one of those 20 people.
Right.
So it was me and this older lady sitting in the parking lot at 5:30 a.m. And I see her, it's like 5:50. I see her open her car door. So I'm like, oh, hell no. She's not going to beat me in here. There's somebody's grandma that's going to get elbowed because I've been waiting for however many years there was, a year and a half. So I go to the door, and I'm standing there with her, and we sort of silently I'm going to be in front when they open this door. They opened up, man, and it was only us two for like 4 hours. So
It's crazy.
I was super like ready to get back. And once I got back, man, I upped my food. I went really hard. That was really the biggest change, is I could actually use the gym and I could eat more, you know. But I probably did too much cardio coming back just because I was so wrapped up in, that's how I had been training at home, really hit style. That's all I had. Push-ups can only do so much, you know. So I probably did too much cardio, and I did sort of stall me putting on size, but I wasn't chasing size as much at that point. It was more so I just wanted to stay lean, you know. And I wasn't mentally ready to push size because I knew I would have to put on some fat, and I wasn't ready for that mentally, you know. But once I sort of said, you know what, I don't care about that anymore. I don't care if I put on some fat. I want to get strong. I want to get jacked. Man, it took off, man. And I put on muscle easier. So I don't have to, you know, I don't have to eat 10,000 calories, and I don't have to, you know, bench 400 pounds, you know. I can work with time and attention, and I can work with a decent load, and, you know, good tempo, and you know, that 6 to 12 rep range, maybe even 12 to 15 some movements, and that really works for me, you know. And I had to find that out on my own through, you know, trial and error, you know, sort of the same way you would do with a client, is you figure out what works for different people, you know. So, man, like, I used to love the bench press. I did a shit ton of bench press, man. I haven't touched a flat bench in forever. You know, my girlfriend likes to bench, and so I'll entertain her sometimes. I will bench, but, you know, I don't really have a purpose for it anymore when it comes to like bodybuilding, you know. So,
Right.
yeah, man, it wasn't a long process for me to get back, but I did overtrain, and that's something that I always, when younger guys especially, you know, hey, you don't have to be in here 7 days a week. You don't have to be here for 5 hours, and I did that, you know, and I was hurting. I had forearm tendonitis where I would take the brown ace bandage and I would wrap it around my forearms just to try to bear with the pain that I was in from overtraining. And picking up a 20-pound dumbbell was excruciating pain, and I would still train through it, you know. So that was idiotic, you know. And I try to tell young guys when they ask, like, you're actually hurting your gains. You know, I train now 5 days a week, and maybe 4, you know, depending on how I feel. And I make way more progress with that sort of split than I did 6-7 days a week, every week, you know. I didn't even realize at the time how much food I would have to eat to keep up with training that way. Hour cardio, 4-hour weight session, maybe come back tonight, sleep 5 hours, you know, running on youth, I thought, you know, where now I'm 31. If I don't sleep, I feel it
Right.
in 2 days later, let alone that day. So it's a little different.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, do you think that intensity and that feel like, you know, what at least what you used to feel like of more is better, do you think that is it all for you? Was that influenced by like an older generation of lifters and bodybuilders?
It did. I think you're talking about Generation Iron or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Generation
I
Iron.
don't think I had saw that yet, but this is before that came out. But I would say just being a super huge Ronnie fan. And if you know anything about Ronnie, he always talked about, you know, I would try to lift as heavy as possible every day I went in there, 7 days a week, you know, and it clearly it worked. You know, and I'm not sitting here saying that it still doesn't work. It's just, why not implement science that we've learned over time? It's a reason for science. It's a reason for different opinions. Like, as people, if we stop having different opinions and sort of shut out anybody who thinks different, that's when we stop evolving. And that's when technology stops growing. And that's when we stop finding more efficient ways. I would love to look like Nick Walker and train 4 days a week, then have to train 7 for 5 hours and be hurt 24/7. And when I'm 60, you need hand crutches or arm crutches, you know.
Right.
You know, you ask Ronnie, hey, would you do anything different? The only thing he refers to is the squat. You know, he would go one more rep. But I think deep down inside, he would like to have a better quality of life with his kids and his wife. That I don't want to be 60 and not be able to walk up the stairs. You know, so he influenced me, but I just think it's mental, man. I think that when you don't know, you know, you're sort of ignorant to the science. I think that it's easy to think. You would think it was common sense to, hey, I want to get bigger quicker. I do more. You know, take the science away. You don't have access to that. That makes sense. You know, I want to get bigger legs, so why would I train them once when I could train them 5 times, and I could take 50 grams of creatine a day instead of 5? You know, that should. The math would math to say more gains, but I think once you learn, you know, you can go harder. I think Dorian Yates trained 4 days a week, one body part a week, and went super hard, you know, for an hour and a half at that one body part, and that was all you needed. But when you just realize that muscle grows with stimulation, and it doesn't, and you can't stimulate the muscle too much, you can overtrain, you know. And 9 times out of 10, your rest is not on point. Your sleep is not on point. You're not eating enough food for that type of training regimen, especially for you if you're natural. You know, so if you're natural, and I was natural, so I was really probably overtraining. Did I see results? Yes. Did I put on muscle? Yes. Did I make steady gains? Yes. But they did stop. You know, when they stopped, that's when I dialed it back, and I said, okay, I'm dialing it back, number one, because I feel like that'll help, and I'm willing to buy into this rest, you know, idea. I'm finally willing to buy into it because I've looked like this now for 3 months. Okay, maybe rest will help, and I mean, it was like that, man. Like 6 days. Oh, you know. First of all, thank you for not having to go at least one day. You know, I can have some type of a life. And then 5 days. And, you know, that 4 to 5 days, man, was the sweet spot where now I'm 3 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off. But if I need 2 off, like I didn't train today or yesterday, you know, this is obviously why I didn't train today. I want to prioritize this, but, you know, I feel fine. I'm not so mentally hard on myself or I'm anxious because I didn't train today. And I think once you can find that peace that, you know I work hard when I'm in the gym. I know I train hard. I know I eat right. I do all the little things and I check the boxes. When I do have to take an extra day off like today, I can reward myself and I can pat myself on the back and say, hey, it's okay. You know, you get in there tomorrow, you pick it back up. And I think that I like where I am today as far as my physique, and I'm happy. I'm not content, but I'm happy. And I think that allows me also to sort of relax a little more and not feel so pressured as opposed to when I was maybe 190, you know, trying to push size and I felt skinny and I didn't like how I looked. One day out of the gym, man, I felt like counted for 10.
Right.
So I put a lot more pressure on myself at that point.
Yeah.
Than I do now.
Yeah, and I think going back to, you know, what you said about Ronnie Coleman, you know, I mean, I just think there's a different, it's weird because you think, let me take advice from this person because he's a legend, right? He's one of the greatest of all time. Right. So he must know, he must be the all-knowing, you know, it's kind of like taking advice from Michael Jordan, right? Or Kobe Bryant. It's like, of course I'm going to do exactly what they did. Right. They have a different mindset. They have different genetics and they have different everything. Yeah. So you know, as much as you can look at them for motivation and inspiration, sometimes you don't look at them for the blueprint exactly. Right. You know, other than maybe the mental blueprint. Right. But and then you know, it makes me also think who's the guy? The dude with the huge legs. Platts, you know, in one of his things, he's like, I see a lot of skinny scientists in the gym. Yeah. You know, so it's almost like you need that marriage of the greats and the legends, the Ronnie Colemans. You need their work ethic and their willingness to do anything, but not necessarily doing it all.
How they do it.
Right. Yeah. You need the smart, but you also need like the crazy.
you to do this, you sort of have to be crazy. But that goes back to, like I said, leg day, a good leg day is painful. Like, it's not enjoyable. If you say I don't have a love-hate relationship at leg day, then you're probably lying. Like, it's painful, but you have to sort of enjoy that pain, and that's what sort of makes it crazy. It's sort of like boxing or martial arts. Like, to enjoy getting punched in the face for a living, you have to sort of be, you have to have some screws loose,
right.
you know. But it makes for a damn good fighter. It makes for a damn good bodybuilder. Just, even if you're not stepping on stage, just a meathead who wants to look good. If you see somebody with a good physique, especially these guys who are super massive, you probably are looking at somebody who is resilient, who can deal with pain, who can push through, who's not going to make excuses. And then you see the people right next to them that train just as many days, but look nothing like that, because they do make excuses. They train and they leave and they don't eat, or they eat garbage, or they eat twice a day and something fast food and then maybe dinner, you know, and they're not consistent with the little things that they have to do. So you have to sort of be crazy, and that's why when we first started talking, man, you sort of become an introvert, even if that's not your personality, because this is a lonely game.
Right.
Again, nobody around me besides my girlfriend cares about the gym, cares about fitness, has any. Well, my buddy that I do my podcast with, him, and, you know, maybe a couple others, but for the most part, if I'm experiencing a high fitness related, there's only one person I can go and talk to that'll understand, that'll even care, or that won't be like, yeah, you know, okay, you know, congratulations, you know.
Right.
My group of buddies from college, super close. Every blue moon, man, I'll hop in a group and I'll just test the waters, and I'll send them something, and, you know, hey man, this is what I did today at the gym, or I'll send them my before and after picture, and you could tell they're trying to be supportive friends, but then you could still tell that they're like, yeah, we don't care, you know, this is not our thing, you know. So you have to be a little bit crazy. You have to be sort of okay being a loner, because
Right.
as you know, this is sort of, if she's not with me, I'm training by myself, and I sort of have to get used to my schedule when she's with me consistently, and then maybe she doesn't feel like it this time, and I go by myself. Now I'm anxious, you know, because I'm like, who's looking at me, you know, who's around? So it's definitely a mental game, man. More like powerlifting was more physical. It took a toll on me more physically. The mental aspect, I was having fun, man. I didn't have fun at the bottom of the squat, but I definitely had fun when I racked it. You know, it's like, man, I just squatted, you know, and everybody in the gym is watching, you know. That was fun. The bodybuilding is mental, man. You know, the physical, this style of training is fun. I don't have as many anxious days going into the gym, you know, because powerlifting was, man, you going into the gym today, bench, squat, deadlift, whatever day it was, it's a lot of weight on that bar, and it's going to kill your nervous system. You're gonna be super tired. You might get it, you might not. You know, the mental that sort of comes with failing, you know, as opposed to this sport, man, the training is fun. It's an everyday grind. And as soon as you eat that last meal on Tuesday, the only thing that you're worrying about next is Wednesday morning, when I have to eat all this and just do it again and again. If you have a show a year out, you know, so you tell me I got a year to do this every single day, and the first day that I don't, there's somebody else that did, and now you lose to that guy. So this is a mental game, man, and I think that's probably my best attribute is the mental side. Physically, no, I would not have been able to power lift much longer. You know, I was heat padding it up and bracing it up and massage gun, and that was an everyday routine. So I miss it, but I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have, I've talked to some pretty big powerlifters, pretty accomplished powerlifters, especially early on in the podcast, and, you know, talked to some very accomplished bodybuilders on the podcast, and it's true from the regards like they're very similar in terms of their will to do it, but it's very different in terms of like kind of like the spark, I guess, if that makes sense. I mean, you probably get it doing both, but it's, you know, you mentioned kind of like having to almost become this introvert, and it makes me think of like a mad scientist kind of, you know, like you're your own science project, and you know, you're the scientist, and you're working on yourself. Even if you have a coach, you're still, you know, you're seeing yourself every day. You're putting the variables into play. So it's crazy how, like, it's crazy the amount, almost like the average person has no idea, like every like opportunity to do something in a way. Like, okay, I have an opportunity to pick up this piece of candy on, you know, it's maybe at the office, you know, front desk. That's not to them, like to the average person, that's not an opportunity. It's just like, oh, there it is. I'm going to grab it. We're going to go.
Yeah.
But to, you know, to somebody dedicated to their physique, to a bodybuilder, it's like, oh, that's something that I can do or I cannot do.
Right.
And it takes a little bit of a willpower to walk past it, or, you know, donuts in the break room, or I'm driving past, you know, my favorite restaurant or my favorite fast food, and I'm thinking about, you know, the Chick-fil-A strawberry smoothie, or, you know, it's just, there's just almost like an endless number of variables, but also of things that can keep you from achieving that goal. And, you know, at the best, you kind of mentioned it, but at the best, you might have the best genetics at that show.
Yeah.
But even then, like, that could almost be a hindrance. If you think that could almost be a hindrance.
Right.
But then also, if you think, okay, I might have mid-level genetics at this show, you know, that in those regards, it's like, okay, well, I can't do anything wrong. So it's like, you know, there's so many mind games, there's so many variables.
Yeah. I think that if you're not humble, that probably would definitely kill. And it's not just for step on stage. I mean, all of it. You know, you see guys who are very full of themselves, you know, and it shows sort of in how they train and how consistent they are, and sort of where their mentality is. And, you know, like you mentioned, as far as powerlifting and bodybuilding being different, I think that powerlifting did not, this is my personal opinion and my personal experience, it didn't warrant as much structure. You know, I had this many sets of this many reps of this percentage of weight for where I am today on this program. And this is the goal. This is how far we are from a meet. And this is what I need to do to get there. This is where I am right now. But I could squat. You know, I'm doing 3 reps of the set, you know. So we're going to do 550 for 3 reps. That's going to be heavy. It's going to be a lot. But once I rack it, I can take 20 minutes if I need to, you know, to recover. Is where maybe I'm doing a set of 10 to 12 on Smith squats now, and maybe I'm doing 5 plates. And I can't rest as long as I need to. So it's more like you rack it, you're gassed, you're tired, but 5 minutes may be too long, you know. So I'm more in that 2 to 3 minute range. And then you look at that weight and you're like, shit, I gotta go again. So it sort of brings out a different beast. It's not, you know, it's not that one requires more than the other, but it's a different beast. You know, so this is I'm in here for an hour. Man, powerlifting, man, we would be in there for 3 hours, 3.5 hours. One set, talk, walk, wait till you could physically do it again, you know, and another one. But it wasn't about hypertrophy. It wasn't about a pump. It was strictly about how successfully, how fast did you move that weight, or did you pull that weight, or did you press that weight. And once you racked it, that's all it was about. And now we're moving from 75% to 85% with this next one. For 2 reps or 3 reps or whatever, how fast do we move it? I don't care how long of a break you took, or, you know, you're not chasing this endurance piece of it. So I think that's pretty much the difference, man. Is it just with bodybuilding, man, you're in there, you're in the zone. I don't want to talk, you know. I'm trying to get in and out. Maybe I'm doing pec deck on chest day and I have a 45-second break, you know. I don't have time to talk, you know, if I'm really trying to stick to it. So they both present a challenge, but they're just a different type of challenge. And for me, I had to tap into a different mental state for both, you know. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's just more of the part I like about it is that I can start. I train after work, so I can start at 9 or 8:30 and be out by 10. At 10:30. At the latest, as opposed to I don't think I could have did powerlifting and trained at night. It's too late for me to put that much weight on the bar and squat it, and then have to do maybe 6 sets of that. By the time I get out of here, man, it's gonna be super late. I won't get sleep, and then I have to come back the next day, and guaranteed the next day is something else heavy. Maybe it's not squatting, but now I'm benching 4 plates, and my shoulder hurts, and this hurts, and that hurts. So today I don't have as much pain. I don't deal with as much joint pain. I got a funny right shoulder and a back that tightens up, but I'm more pain free, so I can have more fun with it. My time in the gym is more enjoyable, and my recovery is like worlds apart. So, yeah, I think that they're both different, man, in those ways for me.
So, at what point did you actually get into the coaching side of things?
So I started in person, and I was training in person, and I enjoyed it, but that was never like the end for me. Like my coach, for example, is sort of who I look up to, as far as in the industry. And I've looked up to him before we knew each other, before I ever spoke to him. And I try to model what I do after him, just like I'm sure he models what he does after somebody else, So though I was in person, I was always planning, to some point not be in person. But I knew for myself, one, I had to continue to educate myself. So that's more knowledge, more reps. Yes, more certs, but overall just more knowledge and experience, like we talked about early on. And I had to work on my own physique and keep growing myself, because you're your own walking billboard. So if you don't look the part, it makes it that much harder to get clients. And you should not have clients strictly based off what you look, but based off what you look, it does help.
Right.
Social media, there's a lot of people who probably have 100 clients who might not even be that good, but they just look amazing. So as I grew, I attracted different clients. I started with very base level beginner clients, and then eventually I would have people who, man, I want to power lift. That probably wouldn't have approached me a year ago. That they came, and sort of my clientele changed as I changed, and so that's been maybe 6 years, total. But since I've been just not in person, strictly online. And with the specialty that I sort of try to hone in on now, that's been maybe 2 years, maybe going on 3 years, that I haven't done any in-person training. So it's been a journey, but I can't say over the last 3 years, man, it's grown every year, and more clients every year. And I think the biggest difference is sustaining those clients, where maybe early on when I first went completely online, got an app and sort of built the business in that way. It was get 3 clients, lose 1, and it wasn't because you necessarily wasn't doing a good job. You just, that level of client is not ready to be that type of serious that they're going to actually see the results and want to stay, right. So I had to keep putting the work in, keep building a portfolio, keep working on myself, and keep living the lifestyle that I was preaching, so that, that's a big part of why I do what I do. Is I don't talk to my clients from a place of inexperience. I know how you feel. I literally am doing the same thing. I met a client at a powerlifting meet maybe 3 weekends ago, and she's been a client maybe 6 months, 7 months now. That was our first time meeting in person. She had her meals, so she had a cooler. She had her meals, everything with her. I had my meals. That meant something to her to say, okay, he doesn't just tell me to do this, he does it. So it took time, but where I am today is, like I said, worlds apart from where I started. I think in the training business, man, when you first start, you suck. I think we all sucked, and that's relative, but I don't think anybody comes right out the gate, NASM or ACE or ISSA or whoever, and just come out and be a amazing trainer. I think it takes reps. It takes time. You have to sort of start at the why, or places like that where you start with your base level. Cheryl, who has had 5 hip replacements and wants to lose 80 pounds, wants to train twice a week, and that's it. And doesn't want to adhere to any type of a diet. I'm not going to give away my Bud Lights and my cigarettes. How do you get her results? And I think that for me, I had to learn how to get to those people mentally before I got to them in the gym, And once I was able to see them like sort of convert over mentally and sort of learn the psychology of, how do you get to these people? How do you get them to understand that what they're doing is not working? That's why you came to me. We got to do something different, and you really are taking people and trying to rewire almost their DNA at that point. Like, you've been doing this for so long. You've been smoking a pack of cigarettes every day for so long, and you've been stopping at Hardee's on your way home for so long, and you've been not working out for so long, that how do I rewire your brain to understand that it's not going to work? Yeah. Try something different. That, yes, it's going to be hard starting out, but we looking at the long picture. It's a long game. And once I was able to really feel like I was good at that, that's when I was confident that I could reach clients without being in person, standing right next to them. I could talk to you on the phone. I could FaceTime you. I can text you, and I know what words to use and what to say and sort of how to connect with people. But now, man, like I said, 60% of my clientele are people who are more advanced, people who, some of them are trainers themselves, have their own clients, and who understand how to lift, understand how to train, understand how to manipulate the variables based on where they are and what they're trying to accomplish, understand how to diet, have already done it relatively successfully. They look pretty good, so now I'm just coming in trying to help them get to the next level. So I don't spend as much time now focusing on, hey, why'd you skip the gym this month? It's maybe sort of, hey, why did we skip the gym yesterday?
Right.
Man, it was a long day at work. Okay, so I'm motivating them to get on track from a day as opposed to somebody who just doesn't care. So it's been a journey, and I think me and my coach talked about, man, how a coach's stress levels and blood pressure is probably always through the roof, because I'm always thinking about, see my phone light up if it's a client, and sometimes they just want to say, I ate my 5th meal today. I'm done really good. But the last whole month they were at like 30% adherence. When do you give praise, and when do you sort of, hold off that praise so they're not content, Mm-hmm. So I think for me and other coaches, you don't mentally rest, You're always a coach, man. When you sleep, she'll my girlfriend say, hey, what, your phone's going off at 11. Who is that? And I'm just like, it's a client. Really? At 11 o'clock? I'll show her like, yes, and they probably don't even want anything. But, I respond because I don't do it for the money. I do it because I actually care, and seeing them get results and seeing them, learn on their own and seeing them, actually really start to love it because they're learning and they're seeing the results and they're able to put it all together. It means a lot to me, and that's super enjoyable, super rewarding, and that's why I deal with the stress, because I enjoy it. So I would love to at some point, man, like I said, I have 50 active clients right now, and I've been able to sustain that for maybe like the last couple of years. I don't market as much right now because I haven't had a spot open, but like when one does come open, I'll market and it's going like that. So I don't like to market because I don't feel like I'm ready to do a wait list, where people are waiting. So if I don't have a spot, I don't market, but I will try to help people on the side if I can in some way until I do have a spot. But like my coach has over 100 clients. So that's my goal, not too many where I can't handle the workload, but enough where my reach is, he's taking over Kentucky, man. I want to challenge him, and I'm sure there's other coaches out here who do as well. So I think that is my goal right now, man. Moving forward is just to continue to grow, and at some point, maybe move from Kentucky and try to take over somewhere, take over another city or state somewhere, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's crazy. You look at kind of like the old way of doing it, and I think COVID really brought online coaching to the forefront for at least most people's attention. People were doing it before that, but most people were probably still thought, okay, I need to go see somebody in person if I want to get results.
Right.
But for the trainer, that really changed the game as far as like not just getting by, because you can only see so many people in a day.
Right.
And now I can also have an income that supports me, really, and I can thrive off of, and I can create something with this. Like, it's crazy how just a few years of difference in the personal training and then kind of moving it more towards the online coaching world has changed fitness, has changed bodybuilding. It really, like, the quarantine really changed the game up, I feel like.
Yeah. I think with everything it did, though, man, not just bodybuilding. I mean, everything is somehow online. Like, it caters to introverts. I think, I don't want to go into the store and walk around. Excuse me, I don't need to touch the outfit, or I want to order it. You come to my car, at most I have to say hi and thank you. And I drive off. So, like, it's the same thing with the coaching, man. I don't deter people from doing in person. If you need in person, if you need somebody to critique your form, if you need somebody to say do 2 more reps, if you need somebody to help you, hey, that's not enough weight, or maybe that's too much weight. If that's the level you're at, by all means. But if you are past that level, if you can take a program that's written down for you and say, I know what this is, I know what that is, and to the best of my knowledge, I know how to execute it, and I will push myself enough for it to work. I think that having an online coach becomes that much more, it's a better bang for your buck. Maybe what you'll pay me to coach you, and you're going to train 5 days a week with your training and your diet, will be the same you would pay some trainer at a gym to train you 1 time a week, and what do you do the other 3 or 4 days? And what do you eat?
Right.
If they're willing to help you with that, they're definitely doing it for free because the gym's not paying them. So how much effort are they going to put into it? How much time are they going to put into it? How much do they care? And it's not that they're not, I'm not going to say they're not a good trainer, but how much are they being compensated?
Right. They can't attract that quality trainer sometimes at the price they can pay them.
That they're paying, right. So you pay $300 a month to the gym, your trainer's seeing $10 of that. Do you trust that meal plan that they put together real quick because they really don't care, but you asked, and again, what do you do the other 3 or 4 days that you come without them? So if you're still going to end up having to figure it out yourself, why not just get somebody to do a program that will tell you every day what to do and what to eat? So I think for the same price, sometimes maybe cheaper. So I think that the online saves people money. Again, if you're at that level,
Right.
And I think that it's a lot of people who aren't at that level who, if they just were willing to push themselves, they would be. You have pretty good form. In my experience, man, typically brainiacs or super smart people tend to have decent form, because they take the time to learn, to read, to study, like some of us wouldn't do. I didn't do that at first. I just went in and was trying to hulk everything, and I'm sure it had shit form. I don't remember, but I have buddies, man, who are really brainiacs who form was perfect. They were little. They still didn't really know how to put it all together, but they did make sure they weren't going to hurt themselves. So if you can get up in the morning or whenever you train, if you can make sure you're pushing yourself to eat your meals, if you can make sure you're trying to perfect your form and get better with time, and just push yourself. If the plan says to failure, you go to failure. If the plan says this amount of weight, you use that. If you can push yourself to follow a plan, you will see much more. You'll get much more bang for your buck following an online coach who still is available almost 24/7. I can call my coach anytime. I can text him. I try not to, Having the experience, I don't need to reach out to him as much, but when I do, he's always there. And a lot of times it's not even about training. It may be about something I saw, or I might see a competitor and say, hey, man, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about, I'll send to my clients sometimes and say, hey, man, this is what I'm thinking with this guy. What are you thinking? He'll tell me, okay, we on the same page. Cool. Just as a reassurance for myself, and when we on the same page, I trust him so that now I feel happy about the decision I was going to make and where I am, and so I think that you got that person there. You got that person who you can call, who you can text, who's still there. He lives in this city. So if I did want to, we train together sometimes, but to pay him to train me in person 4 days a week would be an astronomical amount that I wouldn't be willing to pay. And I think 98% of people wouldn't be willing to pay,
right?
If they knew better. So there's levels, man. And I think there's nothing wrong with the in-person gym, commercial gym trainer. But if they want to stay in the business and they want to make the money to make it a career, and take care of themselves and feed their families and whatever else they got going on, keeping up with the times today in this business is having some sort of online, whether you do both, but just strictly training in person, working for a commercial gym, they just don't pay the trainers enough.
I think it's opened the door for a more professional industry. People are seeing that, okay, I can actually get into this industry. I can train people and make money at it.
Yeah.
So it's attracting people who had a passion for it that maybe in the past would have been like, oh, well, can't really support a family on that, so I'm going to go do something else now. Now they can follow their passion. They can do something that they actually care about. They can put, care into that and for their clients.
I mean, the community is so supportive, like we sort of referenced earlier.
Yeah.
That big guy in the gym or that shredded lady in the gym, a lot of times they're the nicest people,
Yeah.
And when I think about what I paid my coach, when you have experience, you sort of know, you get a different perspective. And I understand what I pay him is more than just the value that it brings is deeper than just the X's and O's, and what to eat and how many reps. It's the community that comes with it. I mean, he's built a community out here, just like I'm working to build a community. And, you have supporters and you have, I'm sure you've seen it where people are at everybody when they post something and they send people, they doing their cardio and they add people, hey, it's the challenge. And it's the accountability of the community. It's the friendships you build. It's the great people you meet that are essentially going through the same struggle as you are, and you can relate and you can talk to, and they want to see you do well. You want to see them do well. And being a part of that community, man, that's value. That has a value, especially if you're a coach yourself. It puts me in the public eye, and it helps. Since I've been working with him, I've got about 3 or 4 that, maybe they can't afford his rates. I'm a little bit cheaper. They trust the community, So I think that it's opened up a lot of avenues. There's a lot of money to be made in fitness. You just have to stay at it. And I think it weeds a lot of people out who aren't really passionate because the money is not there right away. It's a lot more time into it and a lot more effort that goes into it before there's any reciprocation monetary, but if you stay at it, and I probably started maybe when I first did the online, I was writing programs, man, with Word, and one day, Monday, leg day, took an hour, just to type it into delete and back and make it look good and then send an email. Didn't have videos, examples, didn't have any of the stuff that I can offer my people now, who now I can give you a YouTube link for every exercise so that if you don't know, and I can do the time it took me to do one day of a program. When I first started, I can do 2 programs entirely in that amount of time because of technology. So like you referenced, it allows you to touch more clients. If I had to train 50 clients in person, what I would get paid for that, partnered with the amount of time that I would have to put in, it would be ridiculous, and I wouldn't do it. And not that it's about the money, but I still have to eat.
Yeah.
My meals, 6 meals a day, probably 800 calories per meal, somewhere in there. It's not cheap,
Right.
So on top of my bills, on top of my fitness, on top of everything that comes with it, I still have to make a living. So starting at 10 people and sort of going on and off, and now been able to sustain 50, long term, I think is it's all because of social media and technology, and the pandemic definitely sort of pushed it that way and made that more something that people are willing to entertain, try it, get results. Now they're like, so many people, man, I think maybe it was COVID, I don't know. So many people are introverted, way more, I feel like more people are introverted now and don't want to talk to people and don't want to have to meet somebody in person and don't want to have to be at an appointment and talk on the phone. And so all those, I don't know how old you are, but 31,
28.
20. Yeah, we're part of both. Like, I remember when I would talk on the phone to my buddies after school, and my mom would get on the phone and say, "Hey, hang up the phone. I need to call somebody." And now you never see anybody talking on the phone,
right?
Unless it's maybe work, But typically, if you're talking to somebody you're texting. So being able to offer somebody a coach that they don't have to set a time and set an appointment, and they can train when they want, and they can do what they want for the most part, I think suits more people these days better than to be able to at one point.
Yeah, and I think with the coaching side, you talked about it a lot, but the psychological, learning how to like actually communicate with somebody, learning like what, on a broad scale how to do it, but also on an individual scale, like what makes a person tick, what to say to that person to get them to do something or not to do something. I think that to me is the most interesting part of the whole ordeal, because, when we talked about it before, ChatGPT can write a program, but it can't get that person to where they really want to go. And most of that is that psychological rewiring. And but being a coach, that's what you have to do. And that's what your true skill set, I feel like, as a good coach is, whether it's bodybuilding or basketball or football, there's only so many plays in the playbook. At a certain point, it has to come down to like how you're delivering that.
How you coaching. Yeah. I think that, for me, like, it can be stressful, but I think the biggest thing, man, that I've learned is when the push and when not. I have people, man, who've come to me, hey, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Maybe it's for a trip. Maybe it's just to look good. Maybe they have aspirations of competing one day or whatever it might be. And this is what I'm trying to do. And we'll talk. Hey, this is what it'll take. You sort of lay it out. This is what it'll take. I try to get a good picture of what they're currently doing to sort of let them know, hey, this is what you're doing now. These are some things that'll have to change. Can you do that? Are you willing to try to do that? Because if you're not, then let's not even waste each other's time. There is a coach out there that will take your money knowing you won't see results, and they won't care. You'll blow however much it is. You'll still be in the same spot. They say they're ready. They say they're going to do it. We get started. They don't go to the gym. They don't eat the meals. It's always some reason why. And as a coach, you sort of have to learn, how far do I push? When do I push? When somebody's a lost cause, and it sucks, but some people are just never going to do the work. And you'll wreck your brain, trying to force them to. And for me, again, I would much rather have somebody in this spot that's going to do the work and pay less than somebody to pay more that's not going to see the results. Because I feel like at that point, I'm just taking your money, and I have people who would love your spot and would love to have that help and do the work. And you don't, like you said, it's psychology. Maybe if I went to school for that, it would be a lot easier. But I learn on the fly, man, and I'm a very black and white, and the way I was raised, I enjoy it straightforward. I enjoy it, no BS. Tell me how you feel. Tell me what it is. I don't ever want to be in a state of having to wonder, where we stand and what's going on. And, I can take that type of coaching, hey, you're effing up. I can take that. Most people, especially these days, most people can't. So how do you, in such a soft society, how do you learn to, because as a coach, you're a motivator, you're all those things. How do I do that when you have to walk on eggshells? Because there's a thin line between motivation and offensive,
right?
And people they're ready to be offended before it's like when you give them critiques, their defense ears are already, go ahead, say something that's going to piss me off and tell me that I'm not perfect and that I'm not doing everything right. Although I sort of just admitted that I'm not, but I don't want to hear from you, And then you have those people who are like yourself who can take that, who want that, So I think that's the stressful part, man, is you learn all 50 of my people. I know their names. I know their spouses. I know they have kids. I know their hobbies. I take the time to learn that stuff. And I don't want to use the word friends, but I do take the time to become really knowledgeable about who they are. Because how else will I sort of tap into the psychological part if I don't know what, like you said, what makes them tick? Are you doing this for your kids? Are you doing this for yourself? I have a client who was cheated on and recently divorced. He gained a lot of weight in his marriage, and now he just wants to get back out and look good enough to date again. Okay, so when you're slipping up and you're messing up, let me remind you. He'll text me, yeah, man, I'm out at the bar, lonely, by myself. Why are we doing things that's gonna, trigger, those bad emotions, and then you choose to do it at the place where once you go into that spiral of negativity, now you're 10 glasses of Woodford in, and then we check in and you gain 5 pounds and you're flabbergasted. Are we really? You put yourself in those bad spots. So I think that, that communication piece, I think communication is super huge for a good coach. I think knowing your clients, actually caring enough to know them, and that's where sort of having, I think 50 to 70 right now is plenty for me. It's about as much as I can handle with my current workload and still give them a quality experience. Anything more, I don't think I could handle it, man, because people need they need a lot, man. And when they come to you for a coach, they don't say it. You just have to be experienced enough to know that they're coming for more than the X's and O's. They're actually not coming for as much of that as they are somebody to be a listening ear, be a friend, be a counselor, be a motivator. There's times where you are a coach. There's times where you have to pull back and just be a friend, somebody to listen. They don't have anybody in their circle who understands trying to accomplish a fitness goal. So when it's getting hard, who do they talk to? You. Whether that's 5 in the morning, whether that's 12 at night, I'm gonna go to my coach, and I have my own problems and I'm human, so that I have to find a way to address what I have going on. And you don't have a lot of time for that because you got 50 people who got stuff going on and they pay you to be that person, for them. Right. So, that part is not always easy, but you definitely feel like a psychologist and a therapist 90% of the time.
This podcast is sponsored by Smoking Gun Coffee, a veteran-owned coffee company that strives to give back to those in need. Don't forget to use code TWR10 for a 10% discount at checkout. And because of that, what you just mentioned about like having all these other people's dreams and goals a lot of times on your shoulders, how do you, if another coach is watching this, how do you, or what do you do? Is it time away from the phone, or is it what do you do to sometimes get some of you back, if that makes sense?
That's probably the biggest thing, man. These days you're probably working from your phone and your laptop or something. Just putting them down, and the people around me, again, mainly my girlfriend, is really big on getting me to detach. And it's not easy, It's sort of I'm just as passionate about my clients as I am about myself. And you want them to check the boxes, every day, and you want them to eat the things, and you want them to do the things, and you begin to want it for them more than they want it for themselves. And when you detach, you almost feel like you're leaving them out to dry, because in the back of your head, there's a small chance that they're somewhere doing everything right, But when I'm there to sort of be, like, I'll have clients who, man, I'll post something on Instagram on my story, maybe talking about bad dieting, and they'll DM me, I was going to skip the gym today, but I guess I'll go. Just being present, and they see you helps, but I that's something that I can do a lot better with, is detaching sometimes and sort of setting boundaries for when I'm working and when I'm not, or when I'm available and when I'm not. But recently, taking some time off Instagram for I think that was 4 days I took, or 3 days or something like that. It actually felt really good. I should do it more. I won't promise that I will, but it did feel good not to constantly be so attached to my phone, and I'm checking for an email, and clients will either text you, or sometimes I'll send them everything and they'll reply to the email, and I think when I work with my coach, being a coach, I know what I like and I don't like. I know what makes my job harder and what makes it more stressful. And I'm not saying I am the perfect best client in the world, but I try to be really close to all the things that I know makes his job harder. If I reply, I send him my check-in via email. I'll text him and say, hey, check-in sent. I don't just send it and then hope that he goes and checks his email 50 times a day. I try to make his job easier. And I think that most of the clients who don't train or coach themselves don't have that empathy, that piece. Don't really care about what makes your job easier. They pay you. You have a job to do in their eyes. And I want to provide that service. I want to continue to grow my business. And when your business is in the growth phase, I think you don't reserve, or you don't prioritize time off as much. I'm trucking ahead because I put a lot of time into this, man. I put a lot of time, energy, money, and I want it to work. So far it's doing really well, and I'm proud of what I put in, but I got a bigger vision, So to me, time off is sort of like the gym, taking time off from the gym. Yeah. I don't want to, she has to tell me all the time, you're not going to lose a client because you didn't reply at 1 a.m, and I'm like, I know I won't, but I have people reach out to me with questions and things who already has a coach, and I'll say, hey, go to your coach. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in stepping on somebody else's toes. Poaching clients, I think, is trash. I would never try to give you advice that's different from what your coach said. Typically I'll ask, well, what did your coach say? Well, they told me to do this, this, or that. Try it, and if it doesn't work, then talk to your coach, but try it. So if I have people coming to me who has a coach, I know I'm not too above where maybe I don't have people that might second guess something and go talk to somebody. And if I'm not available, somebody's available, and that's just me learning. I did a lot of learning and reading and studying on obtaining clients early on. And that was a big piece that I learned, is that you can't be afraid to ask for the client, one. And when people reach out and inquire, they're not just reaching out to you. Maybe they are, but a lot of times they've reached out to multiple people. And a lot of times they'll go with the first person that replies, and I want to be available because it's still a sort of a sales mentality.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to buy a home and I know you, and I know you know this realtor, and I reach out to all three of you guys, probably the first person that replies that shows that I was important, I'll feel comfortable enough to give a shot to, so I have to be okay with putting my devices down and saying, hey, business is closed today. And if that means I'll lose somebody, I'll lose somebody. But I haven't perfected that, not even a little bit. So that's still a process.
And I think you mentioned like at the beginning, it's harder to do those things because you're building it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one idea of balance that people sometimes don't understand, is like balance doesn't necessarily have to be on a daily basis all the time. Like you can be super head down for a year.
Yeah.
And then because of that hard work, now you're able to take 2 weeks off because of, you just achieved this, and you have, more income now because of that. And now you have all these new possibilities. So I think when you look at balance, I think you look at it from a long-term perspective. Yes, I'm putting in crazy hours right now, but it's because I'm going to enjoy and take those crazy hours off later.
I think that we, and as Gen Z, I think that they've brought good things to society and things that are a little bit annoying. But I think that they have taught us that we don't have to work ourselves into an early grave. That balance is okay. Things that are not frowned upon anymore, that once were like leaving a job you don't like, having 5 jobs in this year until you found the one that valued what you value. It's things that I think the Gen Z has, especially post-COVID, has sort of made a thing that it's okay to prioritize rest. It's okay to prioritize yourself and self-love and mental health. And a lot of things that when I was coming up, you didn't hear about that. Like, you didn't hear about time off work for mental health. You just worked to pay the bills, So I think that it's like you said, when you're trying to grow something, I think we should stop pushing what works for us or what we feel we need or what we feel we value on everybody else. Because maybe having a super balanced lifestyle where you have time to vacation and time to this and time is effective for you. But maybe the next person has to have their head down or else they'll get distracted. Whatever works for that person to make them happy. And I think that's what we get so far away from is not the same things make everybody happy. As coaches, you have to look at that. I'm sure as a coach, if your goal is to be as big as you can and be as jacked as you can, when you're training a guy who you see a lot of potential in, you sort of have to realize that that's not what he wants. That's not what makes him happy. You have to be okay with that. But sometimes it's hard because you're like, man, you could be a monster. What if he doesn't want to be a monster? What if this person doesn't want to have that balance? And what if they really have something they want so bad that they want to put their head down and spend every day, all day chasing it? That's what makes them happy, And for me, I do appreciate balance. I do appreciate days off. I think moving forward, I'll probably start to take every Sunday off where I don't respond or do anything on Sundays. But it'll be hard at first, because I'm getting them all day, the texts. And, excuse me, man, a lot of times it's not even, again, it was unnecessary, And those are texts that I don't send my coach, I've had times, man, where I'll take a picture out to the gym and I'm like, I want to send this to my coach and talk some shit today, I'm like, look, but I'm sure he has this many other people that's texting him. He has a wife. He has a life, we'll talk about this on check-in day, and that's just the respect that I try to give as far as space because I do have empathy, because I understand, but I'm not a big balance guy. It's cool, but what I want when it comes to my physique and what I want when it comes to my business and my aspirations are to be a world-class coach way before a competitor. Like that's not my goal, I want to be a coach, golf, when I was playing golf in college, I enjoyed teaching people way more than I did playing. I just enjoy to be able to say, here, man, here's a blueprint and motivate you, and then see you stand here and look way different than you did. That means much more to me than me doing it for myself. But the goals that I have for both are so big that I don't really have a lot of time for balance. I'm not 21, I'm 31. So how long will I be able to train? How long will I be able to put on muscle and size and carry this amount of weight and all those things, attract clients, fit the standard, fit in the industry, and grow my business? I don't know how long I have, to do that stuff. So for me, balance is cool, but it's sort of a distraction for me right now. Once I maybe, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't really have an end goal, but I guess time will tell me. And I'll listen to my heart and I'll listen to how I feel. And when I feel like, okay, I'm comfortable taking time away, taking time off, then I will. But right now, this is where I find my happiness is in the grind, you know. And I get bored, you know, pretty easily, you know, and I need something to chase, you know. It's like an animal almost. Like I need to be chasing something, or else I feel like, what the hell am I doing? So that's where I am right now. So
I think fitness in general, but also bodybuilding attracts that a lot. You know, I think that personality type of like, I want to go all in. I want to, you know, find balance and maybe at another time in my life. I think that kind of person is just attracted a lot of times to bodybuilding and, you know, talking about trying to build something. And I've experienced that very recently, you know, with the podcast. It's been a little over 3 years now. And I feel like, you know, just putting, like you said, money, time, effort, energy into something. And even though you enjoy it, it is a grind, and, you know, doing very similar things over and over and over again as any business, right? But, you know, finally, after about 3 years, realizing like, what can I do to make this more, not automated, but like, how can I take some of this off my plate a little bit, you know, because you don't, I don't want to say you lose the passion for it, but I think you become so ingrained and you have to do so much sometimes that you can't put the true like creativity and the true passion into it, because it's like, oh, I've given so much to these other, sometimes like this other minutia of it, this other like fine details that I can't bring the same energy to it that I once did. And that's where, you know, taking a little bit of time, even if it's just like, okay, today I'm not editing a podcast, or today I'm not even recording a podcast, or I'm not getting on and working on a website, or I'm not doing any of it. I might get on social media a couple times, but that's it, you know, and that's all you're going to do for the day. And even that sometimes I feel like is a little rejuvenating, and it makes me want to go back and be like, all right, now I'm kind of ready to get back at this again.
Yeah. I think the thing for like entrepreneurship, this would be an example of entrepreneurship. Like, I think the biggest thing that attracts people is freedom, you know, to do it how you want, when you want. So I think that once you sort of get wrapped up in the chase, you find yourself back into that not doing it when you want and how you want, but because you have to, you know. And I think taking the time off sort of gives you your power back to say, you know, I can take time off if I want to. You know, I don't have to do this today if I don't want to, and that feels good. I think that social media, man, for just the industry in general, like we talked about bodybuilding, all of it really, man. Bodybuilding, powerlifting, chasing a certain physique, a business that you're starting. The person that's going to win, man, is going to be the person who can suffer the most, you know, who can endure the most suffering, who can endure the most failures, who can just keep going, you know. And the podcast with social media, you literally have to just keep doing it, you know. As you go, people around you will just fall off, you know, because they'll get tired of the grind and they'll stop, you know. It's the same with coaching, man. When I first started, I had people who now I talk to, yeah, man, I had to stop, man, because of X, Y, and Z. But a lot of times those are they just sucked, you know, and they didn't have the patience. They didn't have they didn't want to educate themselves further, you know, and they just didn't have the grind, you know. So I think social media sort of has a lot of the young guys who say, hey, I want to bodybuild, or I want to powerlift, or I want to do this, or they're in the gym and they do one set of curls and then they flexing their quads every set, you know. And I think the social media is pushing way more people into fitness, and I think that's a really good thing, man. But it does have a lot of people, when you look at social media, man, your favorite influencer, your favorite bodybuilder, your favorite whoever, and you look at how they look, and that's literally all you see. And you see them post their cool videos, and you see them post their fun meals and a day of eating, you know, and it looks so fun, you know. But when you've done it for a week, you're like, man, I've ate the same thing 7 days. I've trained this, I've done that, and you realize I have another 5 years of this before I'm even close to where I want to be. A lot of people say, okay, no, I don't. I'm not as dedicated as I thought. So, and then it starts to weed people out, you know. So I think that social media is doing something really good for the industry in general. But it does oversaturate it in the sense that it does have a lot of people who, you know, build a butt in 30 days and get fit quick and fat burner this. And it sort of devalues real training and real coaching and real fitness, you know. And people are sort of drawn to that because it's intentionally promoted as being easy, you know. But the people who actually look good, the people who actually see results, no matter what they promote, you know, their pages on their social medias, they are living the lifestyle that's not easy, you know. And they don't necessarily promote that because they know most people are not gonna, you know, be willing to do that type of work. So I have to take 5 years to build a nice butt and then sell a 30-day, you know, butt lift plan, you know, that's not going to work. But you have a lot of naive people as well who will easily go for it,
right?
You know, so it's bringing a lot of people into the industry, but it also, you know, it's going to weed those same people out over time when they don't put the work in, when they don't educate themselves, when, you know, word gets around. You know, I can't tell you how many people I talk to my coach. He's like, yeah, I heard about, you know, here's about everybody, you know, whether it's good or bad. So if you're a coach, man, and you taking advantage of people and you're not really helping people, or you're putting a bad name out there for yourself, it'll get around and you'll be out the field just as quick as you got in. And if you can't sustain and be willing to do the work, you know, when I was in person training, I was at 3 gyms. You know, I wasn't just at one. I would train at one. I would go home. I would go to the other. I would go back and forth, you know, and I wasn't even supposed to do that. You know, those gyms wanted me to only, so they didn't know, but I was on the grind, you know. I was on a mission, and I wanted, those people were my portfolio so that I could be qualified enough to do what I do without being in person. So a lot of these kids, man, all these the younger generation they were not bred as workhorses. You know, it's find the quickest way, find the easiest way, find the shortcuts. And as we know, man, in fitness is very few shortcuts.
Yeah.
You know, with technology, I'm sure there's more. There's little things here and there that you can do, but there is no real shortcut. So those people who are sort of, that's their optimism, is that I can find the shortcuts, you know, I can get on gear, or I can do this, or I can do that. They're going to be out just as quick as they got in.
And that's the beauty, I think, too, of fitness, is when you really are in a good community, you can see, like, okay, this person is dedicated. This person did put that time in. Like, right. You can, even though you haven't, like, met that person yet, you have a little bit in common with them. It's like, okay, we get each other. Looking for a supplement company that's as serious about your fitness goals as you are? All Sport Pharmaceuticals is here to help. Their top-of-the-line supplements are designed to help you get the most out of every workout with ingredients that have been scientifically proven to enhance performance and recovery. Whether you're a seasoned athlete or just starting out on your fitness journey, All Sport Pharmaceuticals has the perfect supplements to help you achieve your goals. Plus, with their commitment to quality and safety, you can trust that you're getting a product that's both effective and reliable. So what are you waiting for? Take your fitness game to the next level with All Sport Pharmaceuticals. Visit the website today to learn more.
Most people, man, that do it right or well come from a dark place. Most, especially talking like bodybuilding, powerlifting. It's not just you have to be a little crazy. We all fighting some type of demons, you know, and that's what makes you drown yourself in it. Because, you know, if we were all just happy-go-lucky type of people, it would be a lot of distractions, you know, that I think when you are willing to put on the blinders and really, you know, focus that hard on something that's painful as weight training intensely, that is as redundant as dieting, the same things every day, that sort of pulls you away from all the fun, the things that are deemed fun, you know, the freedom to eat what you want and do what you want. And like you mentioned, the candy at the office, you got to be fighting something. And there has to be some inner type of push that's pushing you. And if you watch like the Iron Generation Z, Generation Iron thing, or different documentaries like that, or individual documentaries with people, you'll hear we're fighting some demon. It's some type of demon you're fighting. For me, at my lowest, like I said, with my injury, and then I was going through, a couple years after that, I was going through a divorce, and I wasn't at my lowest at that time, but it was just a lot of stuff going on around me that was the only place I found that I could drown it all out. Was the gym. Outside of the gym, man, it was everything. So that was almost my escape. I would almost run from reality in the gym. Sort of I've created my own reality, what I wanted to look like. I was fighting so many things, and I was fighting in a form of I'm pulling myself away from things and from people and from everything, and I'm making this my home, even if it's by myself, and that's sort of how I haven't always been introverted per se, but I would say maybe over the last 6 years, I really sort of, became an introvert, and I think fitness is definitely, it gave me a home when I became an introvert. And I probably couldn't even tell you why I became an introvert, but when it's like it just hit me. I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to be bothered with people. I didn't want to go places. I didn't, and it wasn't an insecurity thing, At that time of my life, I actually was pretty secure in myself, but it just, overnight, man, I woke up and that wasn't appealing to me anymore to be around people.
Right.
And the gym gave me a home where I didn't have to,
Yeah.
And then you sort of realize as you go and you see results and you sort of start to stand out physically and you look different and you become that guy in the gym that people look to for advice. Now you can't be as much of an introvert, and it sort of forces you to get out of that, space, that if I really reacted the way I normally would want to when I get approached, I would probably be deemed a dick. Like, hey, this guy's a jackass. I'm not, but I'm just as nervous and anxious being talked to as you are approaching me, and it's not coming from a place of being a jackass. It's more, I'm just as uncomfortable as you are, so let's make this quick.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, you brought up you gained more confidence, but you still kind of felt like you didn't want to interact with everybody anymore. Right. And I think that part of that comes from you gain confidence and you gain more awareness of yourself and you start to almost see that other people don't have that.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're judging them or anything, but they haven't found that confidence. They're still kind of doing things that you may deem as time wasters or escapes or whatever it is. And so you don't kind of going back to what I was saying, you can relate to bodybuilders, you can relate to people in fitness because they're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
These other people, a lot of other people aren't doing what you're doing. So it's almost hard to even relate to them. It's hard to, connect with that kind of person, not because they're a bad person, it's just they're a different person.
Yeah. I think that, I don't really know what it is, man. I think having the blueprint or some blueprint, no, none is perfect. It's not universal. It doesn't one size fits all, but having a goal. And I think that's a big piece for people when they do hire a coach is people who don't even follow the program that have worked with me for 3 years. And every time I see them in person, I know they're not doing the work. It's very obvious, but they continue to stick around. They continue to pay. And it's because when they walk into the gym, the insecurity and the not knowing of literally where to start. And if they couldn't open up their app or the email and have something that literally says, do this, they wouldn't even come, So I think that, like you sort of alluded to, what motivates everybody is different. And I think that the bodybuilding thing or the fitness thing or just being a gym bro meathead, it does take a different level of consistency, and it does take a different level of effort. But I think that most people they had to see results, at some point to motivate them to keep pushing. I think yourself, myself, probably anybody, we have a threshold of how long we would be willing to try, not seeing results, and keep putting that same amount of effort in. You
Right.
know? But I think for me, seeing results the way I did, especially once I implemented the science the right way, was the motivation. I'm in the mirror. I'm bigger. I'm more muscular. I have more size. I have to go tomorrow. I can't lose this. But if you never gain anything, then it's almost there's nothing. When you look in the mirror, man, it's time to get your clothes on and go. When you don't want to, what am I losing? I'm not seeing any results anyway, and I don't know what to do. And maybe I can't afford a coach. Or whatever it may be. Then it takes that effort to be willing to seek out that information yourself. And put that type of discipline into it. But again, that takes effort that if you're not seeing the results that come with it, how many days would you go to your job and not get a paycheck before you quit?
Yeah.
The gains are the paycheck, how long, whether it's lose weight, gain, and when somebody says, hey, this is what you're supposed to do to lose weight, I'll see people come and go, man, and they might ask, you look like you know what you're doing. What do I'm trying to get rid of my stomach. The first thing I'll say is diet. They didn't want to hear that. They wanted to hear how many of these push things do I have to do on this contraption here to get rid of my stomach.
Right.
Or I see you got the ab crunch machine over there. How many of those do you think a day? Diet.
Right.
Okay. That's not what I asked. How many of those crunches do I have to do? Diet. And then eventually they're like, okay, so I'm not going to get a shortcut. There's not a shortcut. Well, I know the diet thing is not going to happen. So, so many excuses, man. And I think that when I try to let my clients see that I live the life that I preach, because I don't want the chicken breast just as much as you don't. I don't want the ground turkey. That's 99 ground turkey. It's cardboard essentially with no sauce. I don't want that. So I'm working on discipline, not even motivation, just discipline. And I sort of, especially my male clients, man, who are trainers themselves, always sort of come at it from an angle of you have to live the life that you're preaching to your clients. Because if you are not living that lifestyle, and your clients, when they give you excuses, then you have to accept them. You have to be okay with the excuses because you're making the same ones. Right. I don't feel comfortable telling my clients that you're making excuses if I'm also making excuses.
Right.
So it's a hard game. But I just think back to the original point, I think the social media is definitely doing something really good for the industry. But you get into it, and you get into whether you're coaching or whether you're just training yourself, and you find out really quick how hard it is, and you have a different respect for the people who do it well, and it quickly weeds them out, and it sucks, but it helps the people who are legit, stand out, and I think that's good.
If you're tired of searching for a coach or trainer, somebody who knows what they're talking about and has experience, make sure you go check out the new Coach's Corner on weightroompodcast.com. You can find quality, qualified coaches to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in bodybuilding or just general fitness. Stop wasting time and start achieving your goals today. The link to the Coach's Corner is down in the description below.
Yeah, for sure. That goes with anything, any industry, any endeavor. There's the people that have been at it really a long time, and I really enjoy talking to those people on the podcast. It's like you can hear in their voice, and you can tell from their stories, like they have a deep understanding of this thing.
Yeah.
Like they have this experience through different time periods. They have who was it? Helly Trevino, talking to her, like being in multiple Olympias, being, competing over the last 20 plus years in bodybuilding and, being, especially from a different country, having that different perspective. Like, it was just one of my favorite conversations I've ever had, because it was just, to me, so enlightening on, oh my gosh, this person has just done it and never stopped, like never given up on this thing. And that's just something that I think is so valuable.
Yeah. I think that it's hard to give up, when you find a passion, and if it's easy to give up, then maybe you haven't found a true passion. And I think the lines are so blurred today because of social media. It makes everything seem so easily attainable. So it's hard to hone in on what's actually a passion and what just seems cool. It's cool to make money via the gym. That's cool. But when you get into it and you see all the what you could deem as cons, then it's when you have to actually be passionate to see that through, because there are a lot of them, and it's not easy, like you said, to be resilient enough to stay at it, even if sometimes you have to scale the business back a little bit and focus on something else and then build back, and, but it takes time. And I think that one thing that fitness should teach you, if nothing else, is patience. And I think in everything you do, there's not one thing when it comes to fitness that is overnight. All of it takes years, not weeks. And that's one thing that is universal, is that there is no, well, it took a couple months for this guy because he's this guy. No, it takes years for everybody, And if you trying to reach your peak, everybody's peak is different, everybody's potential is different. I don't care. It's going to take you years to see your potential, your peak from when you started. Now, obviously, depending on where you are in the journey, but from the start, it takes patience, it takes time. You start this business, you start a business, it takes patience, it takes time. And I've learned to celebrate the small wins just as much as I do the big wins. And it's not something that I did well, at first, but I think, again, bigger than the book that you can read, any mentorship, any of that stuff, I think the biggest teacher is going to be experience. So you got to put yourself out there. You can't be afraid to ask for a client. If you see somebody with potential, man, and y'all engage in a conversation, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, do you have a coach? And you'll get to a point in your career where you might not have to do that or might not do that anymore. I'm sure Hottie is not in people's DMs, but right. Until you get to that level, if that is the goal, then there's nothing wrong with starting somewhere, and what I do for a living outside of coaching, is I teach trainers how to do that, how to be a trainer at the level that they're at. And one thing I try to promote so much is talk to people, make yourself seen. Don't just come in here, train your clients, and go home, and nobody see you, nobody talk to you, touch people, walk around, train here at peak hours. The gym, one of the gyms that I trained at, people in that gym, the owner worked there. People thought I owned it. People literally thought I owned the gym because I was there so much. I was there literally all day. I was the constant that people knew when they came in. So when they needed a trainer, they was going to come right to me because I was there. But if you're not there, that's almost like they have to convince themselves, first of all, to even take that route to hire a trainer. And it's almost how I do with like clothes. I'm not a big clothes guy. So if I do convince myself to, hey, go buy an outfit, it's almost like I'm hoping it's not available so that I don't have to, but it's not my fault. That's what they do with I'm going to try to hire this trainer, but man, any excuse that comes up, I'll see, well, it wasn't my time, but I was always there, so communication, being visible, I'll tell people also, man, invest in a coach if you are a coach, because what you learn from them and watch how they do their thing and build your physique, because again, with social media, until you like Ed Cohen, it's different. He doesn't have to He's older. He's old. He doesn't have to stay in great shape. We know his resume. So if you're looking for a powerlifting coach, if you are privileged enough to work with somebody like that, it doesn't matter what he looks like. We know his resume. If you're starting out and you don't look good with social media and how people present themselves in their best light, you're just not gonna do well. Because why would I give you my money to help me look a certain way when you don't look a certain way? So if you're not training yourselves hard, if you don't stand out physically, man, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I don't really have an opinion on that. If aesthetics matter, but my coach, he's not some super huge, guy, but he does look like he trains. He does look like he knows what he's talking about, and he has a portfolio to go with it. It's the same, so I know for a fact, man, if today I looked how I looked 4 years ago, 3 years ago, it's a lot of clients that I have that I probably wouldn't, so that it's so many things like that, man, that are important that I think that we sort of miss, and then again, it weeds them out, so.
Yeah. It is interesting, kind of that physical aesthetic portion. I think it's just human nature, we want some, because it's hard to see, especially initially, into someone's brain. It's like, okay, I don't know that they have that knowledge, but that physical part is very important. But yeah, man, could talk all night with you. It's it's really great getting to chat with you, and I appreciate you coming on the podcast and kind of sharing some time with me here tonight. It was an honor to get to chat.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me, man. It was fun. I was watching your stuff, man. I was like, some pretty dope people come on. So I was honored to come out, man.
People want to get in touch with you, social media, whatever.
Oh, yep. So Shawn J the Trainer. So SHAWNJ the Trainer. But you can always repost videos, and I'll send you some pictures and stuff if you want to repost them too with the tag. But that's all I do is really Instagram, man. I don't really do like Facebook or Snapchat. So
gotcha.
Pretty much all IG.
Gotcha. Well, like I said, it was great getting to chat with you. I appreciate you coming in the studio and getting this thing done.
Thank you for having me, boss.
Thank you.
Yep.